Hey, good evening, ladies and gents and folks who are here. Oh, stars, that's new. Okay. Well, there's a new Facebook thing. There are stars. I'm going to give it a minute, but this is something new to try, a myth-busting Monday here. And so what I find is anymore in the functional nutrition world and gut health world and inflammatory conditions world is people are jumping in and not being aware of how deep this really goes. And so I'm just going to be here to share research, share some of the common misconceptions I hear, share some of the myths, and calcium and bone health, I feel like, is a huge part of that. That's something that comes up again and again. And as I've been doing all this research for arthritis, which is inflammation plus destruction of bone, the number of times I have people telling me that they're just taking a calcium supplement, or wow, we progressed, now it's a calcium magnesium supplement, or maybe a calcium vitamin D supplement. And so that's still way behind on the research, even though it's at least further in. So I want to kind of share that, bones are more than just calcium. So if you're looking to have strong, healthy bones, you need to be aware of all the components. When you aren't, you can actually make things worse. So it's a disservice if you've got a doctor or nurse telling you to eat Tums or just take a calcium or calcium magnesium or just drink more milk. So when it comes to bone health, you need to be aware of basically four things. One, all the needed nutrients for a healthy bone matrix. Two, that they are in the right balance. Three, that they are in the right form. And four, that you have it all balanced with a healthy lifestyle around it. So, number one, bones do require healthy calcium. Sorry, I'm shifting things so I can see my notes here. But you also need magnesium, phosphorus, vitamin D, vitamin K2, collagen, and glycoproteins. All of these have to work together in tandem for a strong matrix. So two, if you boost just the calcium, it doesn't necessarily even get absorbed because, again, these all have to work together in the right amounts. And instead, if you just take calcium, you're going to get free calcium floating through your body. So this is called high free calcium excess, or FCEI, free calcium excess index. So where we see this high free floating calcium, chronic inflammation, arthritis, and especially we start to see heart disease because that free floating calcium goes through your arteries and your veins and it actually calcifies in the arteries. We don't just want a bunch of calcium floating through the body. It's very much like the plaque on your teeth that lead to oral problems, but now in your arteries. So this is hard plaque-like substance. So if you take in all this calcium, but you don't have enough phosphorus, vitamin D, magnesium, B6, K2, then you are going to be at increased risk for these problems. Form 3. There are different types of calcium, and often supplement companies will cut corners because they're trying to cut costs and make things cheaper. I have a whole podcast on problems with supplements, and I love supplements, but there are risks. And so one of them, this is an example, is where companies will cut corners on the cost by trying to use cheaper versions. So there are things like calcium from oyster shells or limestone, but often these have contaminants and heavy metal toxins and things in it. And there was one study that showed that this intake of using this supplement was at an increased risk of heart attack. Now, was that just because it was just calcium and it wasn't balanced? Maybe. Was it the contaminants? They're not sure, but it's still something to be aware of. Calcium carbonate is another form that's used a lot, very affordable, very cheap, but it's hard to digest and it needs a lot of stomach acid to really break it down. And guess what Tums uses? Calcium carbonate, with the entire goal in that sense, if you truly have high stomach acid, which is not often the case, it's actually usually people have low stomach acid, misdiagnosed. I have a whole thing separate on that. But usually the idea is if you do have that acid, they don't want that calcium absorbed. It wants to sit in your stomach to help neutralize, to buffer that acid. So you would take that for truly high heartburn issues, but it's not meant to be chronically used every day kind of thing. And it is definitely not to be used if you need to increase your calcium stores. So because this now perpetuates that, not only, you take the Tums for the calcium, and it is this form of calcium that needs a lot of acid to break it down, but the Tums blocks that stomach acid. So never. So we're back to number 2 here, that balance issue. If it's only that calcium, you don't want that. So if it's only calcium, we're now back at that issue. So please don't ever take Tums for the sake of taking calcium. And then if you do drive that stomach acid down, you're going to have more trouble digesting and absorbing protein, which takes us back to number 1. You need all those correct nutrients, the protein, the phosphorus, magnesium, and so on. And finally, number 4, lifestyle. Inflammation accelerates what's called osteoclast behavior, which basically is breaking down bone faster. Your bones are constantly breaking down and rebuilding, breaking down and rebuilding. That's part of the whole balance of homeostasis. But inflammation from bad food, from stress, from issues will actually increase that bone breakdown. So control inflammation with the anti-inflammatory food list, proper sleep, hydration, deep breathing, and exercise. And then there are other factors that I can't get into in this little video as well, but estrogen actually plays a protective role to the bone, which is why we see more osteoporosis after menopause. So if you're dealing with hormone imbalances or, really bad PMS, PCOS, any of those kinds of things, estrogen dominance, that's already going to put you more at a risk as well. So that is a really speedy run through, but osteoporosis and arthritis both involve that bone weakening and breakdown of bone. So I will be writing up a longer blog post, kind of reviewing this info and going a little deeper into the nutrients that you need for the bone health, some foods to consume, some of the supplements that I do like. So if you want that information, you want to get on that email list, drop a comment saying bones, and then I'll kind of get your email address from you. Make sure you're on that email list. And I'll let you know when that article is ready. So stay well, stay empowered.